Good day everyone. In this video we're going to discuss the module 3, the camera, film processing and print making. So the broad topic would be the depth of field.
Depth of field. Depth of field refers to the distance between the nearest and farthest elements in a scene that appear to be acceptably sharp in an image. It is the portion of the distance or depth that is in focus. A depth of field means all or most of your photo will be focused, including the foreground, subject, and background. A higher depth of field would see the whole image from foreground to background sharp and in focus, while a lower depth would result in blurry backgrounds and blurred elements in the foreground too. On the other hand, the depth of field is not equally distributed in front or near and behind or far from focus point. Usually, the far depth of field is larger than the near depth of field. The importance of depth of field is it helps distinguish the foreground from the background to create a focal point that draws the eyes and tells it where to look.
Factors affecting the depth of field. There are several factors affecting the depth of field, such as subject matter, camera movement, camera to subject distance, lens focal length, selected lens f-number, format size, and circle of confusion criteria. So there is a combination of the subject matter, camera movement, and camera to subject distance. These three factors is the closer the camera to the subject, the more shallow depth of field have in the image. And the combination of the focal length, subject distance, and format size defines magnification at the film or sensor plane in the selected lens aperture or f-number. So the lens focal length is one of the easiest way to control your depth of field. So depth of field depends on the size of the opening of the aperture. The larger the opening aperture is, the more shallow the depth of field will be, and opposite vice versa. Next is the format size or sensor size. Sensor size allows you to achieve a shallow depth of field. So if the original image is enlarged to make the final image, the circle of confusion in the original image must be smaller than that in the final image by the ratio of enlargement. So when focus is set to the hyperfocal distance, the depth of field extends from half the hyperfocal distance to infinity. So the depth of field is the largest possible for a given f-number.
We have here the focal length. So focal length, this will determine the size of an image of an object at a given distance and the area of coverage of the lens. So it means that the distance between the center of the lens of a camera from its focus, so from its object. So I have here illustration. So in this illustration, we get to see that the distance from the three to lenses of the camera, that is what focal length is. So, and the focal length, it measures the distance in millimeters. So, and it also shows to the picture that the short focal length have a larger depth of field. So just like Miss Salva discussed earlier, so depth of field is the coverage or the angle that a lens will be captured. So compared to 500 millimeter lens, so its depth of field is narrow and it's smaller compared to 50 millimeters. You can see that you get more wider capture than the 500 millimeter lens. We get to go to the 20 millimeter. It truly shows that short focal length have a larger depth of field. The next one would be the different types of lenses. So the first one is the wide angle. Wide area coverage but produces a small image size. So best example for this are landscape shots, cityscapes, and architecture. So the second one would be the normal lens. so its coverage corresponds to nearly the coverage of a human eye. Last example would be the close-up of people faces. So the third one would be the telephoto lens. So lens produces a bigger image from far distance, but the coverage is smaller, so allows you to photograph where your subject is far. So it means that you can go near to your subject. So the best example would be the sports events or wildlife shots. Fourth and last type of lenses are the zoom lens. So lens with variable focal length change the angle of view quickly without changing lens. So just like I said earlier, the short the focal length, the larger depth of field. The large the focal length, the narrower or the smaller the depth of field will be captured. So that's all from our discussion. So we get here the references, and that's all. Thank you and bye.